Okay, good day, listeners. It's another wonderful day again on security and safety angle on PRAWA Radio. And we will be talking about managing disasters in Nigeria with reference to the ongoing flooding in several parts of the country. I have a very, very special guest today. He's a veteran, a veteran in media and radio broadcast. He's a veteran in international development. He's also a public analyst. He's a public analyst and a consultant with various multilateral organizations. So welcome with me, Mr. Tom Odewinge. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
There has been lots and lots of challenges in Nigeria, but disaster is another one, is another dimension to the challenges of security and safety that we have. And we've had this issue of perennial flooding. It happens annually, every year. You're almost certain as a layman that in so state there is going to be flood next year. In so state there's going to be flood another year. So why has the government or the responsible agencies not been able to do anything about it? What's the problem?
Well, I think it's the government that should be able to tell us what the problem is. But I must remark that it's very innovative for PRAWA Radio to, I think for the first time, this will be happening, to link disasters with security.
Thank you, sir.
Because we just behave in this country as if we can't make links. So I want to congratulate you for making this link.
Thank you, sir.
You asked the question, what's the problem? Well, it's part of Nigeria's problem that every year we really watch helplessly millions of people traumatized, dehumanized, displaced, and severed from their livelihoods. Where we should have been more proactive, we actually wait for this disaster to happen before we start dispensing palliatives and all kinds of relief material. I would have liked a situation where all the agencies involved now, because there's a lot of attention to Borno and other states where flooding is taking place. There's a lot of people are coming up with donations, with relief material, with the efforts to prevent these things. As it is, we are stuck with it and we must get out of it.
So, that is a very good observation. Why can't we prevent rather than looking for? We'll wait until it happens, then we'll start looking for, bilateral and multilateral institutions to support us in bringing emergency relief, emergency response, emergency that. Why can't we prevent?
Yeah, it's back to the Nigerian problem. We have a tendency to concentrate so much power at the federal level. For instance, if you talk about NIMET, the Nigerian Meteorological Service. Yes, you hear them forecasting states in which there was going to be disaster, flood disaster, and so on and so forth. But I think for once, we should really be expecting these signals to be coming from the local government, from the states themselves, so that you must diversify the activities of NIMET so that there will be a sense of ownership of all these forecasts. We have a chair of government in this country that we have consistently marginalized. It's only recently that action has been taken to make sure we assert the independence of that chair of government, that's the local government. This should also reflect in managing disasters. Every local government must have the capacity to forecast what is going to happen at the local government so that they can prepare for it.
So sorry to cut you in there. The PRAWA And when I say power, I'm talking about personnel, talking about mechanisms, talking about structures, I'm talking about the devices, the equipment used. Should not just be concentrated at the national level.
Yes, that's what the point I'm making.
It should be there, decentralized, decentralization of power, of ownership. So when NIMET, for instance, has presence in the 774 local governments in Nigeria, has structures where, everybody takes responsibility. You see, the weather today, it's as if it's not going to be too pleasant. You see strange things, anywhere. You report to NIMET at the local government, and then it goes up.
Yes. In those days, I mean, they used to say that you can't predict the British weather. But you can't say that any longer because it's so precise. There's nothing you want to know about tomorrow that you won't see. You will even see where the rain will fall, where the intensity is going to be high, and so on and so forth. So you bring that back to our own circumstance. We must develop a local government capacity to forecast the weather and also to analyze the risks that will come from some of the things that are going to happen. Rain, it could be wind, it could be storm, and so on and so forth. So we so that they can be dealt with, because emergency is not something that you subject to bureaucracy. Yes.
I like that then.
Yes.
Emergency is not something you subject to bureaucracy.
Yes.
When you say it's an emergency, somebody has to act fast. Everybody has to act fast.
How do you practicalize this? The budgeting, must be at the local government level. The logistics must be at the local government. That is, the deployment of logistics must be at the local government level. Even at the community level, every community must know what the risks are in weather conditions. So otherwise we will leave millions of people vulnerable every year to disaster. There's no way anybody is ever going to stop disasters happening. However, there is a way in which you can prevent its very, very debilitating impact on people. There's a way in which you can use the forecast, to let people know that where they are living today is going to be very, very hazardous tomorrow, and you evacuate them. You don't wait until the disaster has happened before you start administrating, palliative or relief.
That's another dimension.
Yeah.
That is another dimension.
Yeah.
Now, over the years, because we have seen this happening and we know it will happen, whether forecasted or not, why have we not been able to put up a planning mechanism to forecast and then try to see make provision for shelter or wherever that these people in the community that it's going to happen will be evacuated.
If it's community based, you can mobilize the community to provide shelter in a safer place. You don't have to wait for Abuja for that to happen. But for it to happen at the community level, the resources must be there. If they are not there, there's a way in which you can mobilize the community to provide the resources while you are dealing with bureaucracy. Like I said, this is a situation that goes beyond bureaucracy. If you're going to provide shelter at the community level, you're going to use resources that are available at the community level. You're going to use, the human resources that will, establish this shelter.
Absolutely. So because I know there has been sometimes that, things, there were red signals in certain communities, there were alarms. And the traditional rulers were like, let's come together.
Yes.
This part of the community is safe.
Yes.
So we can try to mobilize our people
to
be there for a while until the disaster that is about to happen, is over.
Yes.
So I'm sure even the community people will be willing.
Yes, there are community structures.
Support.
There are age groups. There are able-bodied people who will be able to, volunteer their physical energies to set up agriculture. When you say this, you can say, this disaster should not happen in my community. What does it mean? Everybody is ready to take steps to prevent the disaster. That's what it's all about. Not waiting for disaster to happen before you now start mobilizing resources.
Even from the international community. We won't even stop at the national level. We'll go to the international community. Oh, this disaster has come again.
And then we must be able to define disasters. There are implications for health, implications for food security, implications for shelter, like I talked about. Each agency that is involved in this should also be involved in steps that can be taken at the preventive level. If food is going to be needed for those who are going to be affected, there must be a reserve somewhere. It must also be community-based.
Like we have some food banks.
Food banks, exactly.
Food banks.
So don't tell me about silos.
The local government secretariat.
Exactly.
Food banks at the state secretariat.
Yeah. Don't tell me about silos that we are using for strategic grain reserves and all that. You must replicate it at the local level, so that when disaster happens, then you can fall back on it before donations start coming from international and for goodness sake, WHO, I was reading a report where they have also been part of the relief, and I am saying that because I worked for WHO before, and I was involved in planning Nigeria's emergency relief system. And you must be able to come up with certain medications. You must be able to the vaccines. You must be able to come up with things that can, resuscitate people when they are held in fraud and all the rest. Those are. Then you go to other like UNICEF. Children are the most affected,
the most vulnerable.
Yeah. Then UNICEF must also be guided by the need to plan, to prevent. Let's not be stuck with, when disaster has happened, we are rushing relief matter. Like I said, all this rushing of relief is welcome, and those who are involved in it must be commended. But we need next time to be more prepared, because if you prevent disaster, you are not even likely to need some of these relief material.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we would have channeled the resources to prevention.
Yes.
Prevention planning.
Yeah. Like it's not just the issue of food, shelter, and medication. There is also the fact that when disaster happens, people are having to start life all over again. So they need to be counseled.
The trauma.
They need to know that you can actually
of losing a house that you have been so attached to. I remember there are some corners in my parents' house that up till tomorrow I still cherish. Each time I go, I'm like, this was my reading room.
Document.
This was my. So you can imagine losing that overnight. Or even having to be displaced from your community to another community, and then sometimes you plead. There has to be structures for you to be accepted by the host community. So lots of trauma. So thank you very much. Thank you so much, Uncle T, because I'm going to say Uncle T. We call him Uncle T. You don't just mention veterans like that. Thank you, Uncle T.
Thank you.
And we have come to the end of this episode on security and safety. Watch out for another episode where we'll continue on managing disasters in Nigeria, especially this perennial flooding.
On this note, we'll have to give a shout out to those who have been affected by this disaster in Yobe State, in Borno State, and in most of the states that are in the vicinities of large rivers. We give a thoughts to them, and we pray that they'll be able to rise up from this disaster and forge on with life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uncle.
You're welcome.